Hello my love friend. Welcome to Blow Up, where we unpack the wildest stories from the internet. Malicious compliance, when following orders leads to chaos. Today we're diving into 8 shocking Reddit stories of betrayal, petty revenge, and sweet redemption. Real people, real drama, real consequences. Grab a drink, get comfy, and let's dive in. Back in 2022, I worked night shift at a grocery store in Florida, stocking frozen. One night, I noticed the walk-in freezer was at 20 degrees Fahrenheit, should be 0. I go tell my manager, real hard-ass, always barking orders like he's running a boot camp. He cuts me off mid-sentence. You're not paid to think. Just stock the damn shelves. Cool. Next morning? Whole seafood section's trash. Shrimp, salmon, crab legs, all thawed and leaking. Store lost over $7,000. Corporate shows up pissed. Manager tries to throw me under the bus. Why didn't you report it? I just said manager told me I'm not paid to think. They checked the cameras and audio, confirmed everything. Corporate backed me hard. Dave was reassigned, aka fired, a week later. Never saw him again. I got moved to dairy lead a month after. There are comments that Dave thought he was running a military base, but ended up sinking his own ship. $7,000 in shrimp down the drain. Bet he's still crying over those crab legs. Some viewers asked questions. If you were this employee, would you have pushed harder to fix the freezer, or done exactly what they did and let it rot? Drop your thoughts in the comments. From a seafood disaster to a corporate con, our next story shows what happens when a boss steals your work and gets hit with malicious compliance. A few years ago, I was hired as a manager to create the contracts department of a tech startup. My boss was on an opposite coast as me and we barely spoke. About a year in, the company hired consultants to overhaul depths except for contracts because it was running so smoothly. I was truly proud of this. The company sent me on a paid trip to the Bahamas as a thank you. After I got back from vacation, I asked for a raise to director level. My boss said I just wasn't there. I asked for a list of what I would need to do to be director. He sent me a list which was everything I was already doing and basically admitted that if I was director he would no longer be able to take credit for my work. Friends told me I needed to either leave or put up and shut up. Instead, I chose to kill with kindness. I wholeheartedly apologized to my manager for overstepping and said that I am going to step back into the manager role. I printed out the manager responsibilities and posted them to my desk. Things went south quicker than I could have imagined. We started missing sales targets. Product said my boss agreed to a term in an agreement that would completely destroy their budget and product rollout. My boss didn't know commission agreements and let sales manipulate contracts, so we were paying commission on contracts with termination clauses. I only interjected once to stop a contract amendment from being approved because my boss was unknowingly letting a VP artificially inflate sales numbers. The controller and CFO had to get involved. Eventually the CEO was called in. Stories started circulating about my boss holding stress balls and cursing in meetings. I was more relaxed than ever, and during my newfound free time at work I studied for and obtained professional certifications. I would also leave work early to get to the gym before it got busy. About a month after I unloaded my added responsibilities, my boss gave me a 7% bonus. It was unspoken, but I could tell he wanted me to take back on the director responsibilities without the title, but I continued to follow the manager description to a T. 6 months later, after taking 10 days of my unlimited PTO, I was included in layoffs. Took 3 months off and then got another job at a 35% salary increase. While I am happy to be making more money, I truly love the company and people I worked with, and it's defeating to watch someone continually take credit for your work. There are comments that this boss thought he could steal credit and keep the show running until the whole stage collapsed. Gotta love the gym sessions and certifications while he's squeezing stress balls. Some viewers asked questions. If your boss took credit for your work, would you pull this malicious compliance move or just quit? And would you take the 7% bonus bait? Let me know in the comments. From a corporate meltdown to a stinky revenge. Apologies for formatting, I am writing this on mobile. Also, I'm not sure whether this would be better here or in our /off me chest or our /petty revenge, but I decided to post this here first as I feel it fits here pretty handedly. This happened about a week and a half ago. I was taking a walk in a small park that has a wooded area in and a few walking trails. I decided I wanted to take the shortest path as it was getting late. About halfway through the path I saw a skunk in the middle of the path, and I am sure based on the title, most people already know where this is going. I turned around and decided it was not worth it to proceed further, and approximately halfway was enough. I exited the path the same way I entered, and as I was entering I saw an old teacher of mine from high school. Let's call her Miss Samantha, not her real name. Miss Samantha was a teacher that went out of her way to nitpick everything I did in her class in high school. Note it has been almost 12 years since I last saw her and 13 since I was in her class. Anyway, with the backstory aside, I went up to greet her and said, "Hello, Miss Samantha, have you been dash?" "Hi, I'm trying to take my daily walk down shortest path, don't bother me." "I wouldn't dash." "You said hello, this conversation is over until I get back from my walk, or you can walk with me and we can catch up." "I just want to warn dash. This conversation is over for now, wait until I finish my walk and we can catch up, understand, Jumping Crow Joker 24? At this point I think for a moment, I am not the type of person who would normally just let someone walk into a potential skunking, but she was just rude to me twice and did nitpick everything I did in high school, so I chose to say nothing and just took a seat at the bench nearby. See, was that so hard? We don't need to be a know-it-all, that was your issue back as a student. And Miss Samantha went down that path. As she did, I whipped out my phone and texted my parents that I'd be heading back to my childhood home a bit late. We'll help them with the dog later, but eat dinner without me, I'll be here for a bit longer. One thing to take into account is that the entrance and exit for the shortest path, we have exit parallel to each other. The entrance is on one side of the bench I sat at and the other side was the exit. In this case, entrance behind, exit in front, so family can wait on the bench and see their relatives exit. Normally I knew I'd see her on the way out if she'd complete the whole route, but in this case I had a feeling I'd smell her coming out first, knowing her attitude. Sadly, my instincts were spot on. As I am on my phone playing a few games, I heard Miss Samantha's voice vaguely in the background and my thought at the time was, "Oh no, she ran into the skunk, here we go." And I do not joke that just as I finished my thought I heard the sound of a woman yell, maybe a scream. I couldn't really make that out 100%, but the wind was blowing my way, so I was downwind of the path, the skunk and her, so it wasn't long before I could smell what happened. Miss Samantha did eventually come out from the path's exit, and the smell she was omitting was awful. It reminded me a bit of raw horseradish getting peeled, as it was really eye-watering. She moaned. "I tried to warn you about that skunk. I figured it out when I got sprayed. You knew I'd react like that, didn't you?" I shrugged. "I wagered a guess, yeah. By the way, mind taking a few steps downwind? So it is easier to talk." After that she gave me her phone number and asked me to contact her when I planned to come back. She hoped it wouldn't be when she was still reeking in skunk odor. As I said at the beginning of this tale, it has been a week and a half. She still has some lingering skunk smell. I found out that up until that moment she was doing okay as well, but she also told me she got sprayed twice. When I asked her why she did not turn back after being sprayed the first time, she told me if she already got sprayed and was going to smell like skunk anyway, she wanted to complete her walk. A fun little anecdote is that after everything she admitted she was being petty, and when I told her I still wanted to study the foreign language she taught and took some classes in college, she told me that if I ever wanted to practice to let her know, and she'll do it without the pettiness this time. To be honest, I think the skunking humbled her quite a bit, and hopefully she won't be forced to deal with residual linger odor much longer. But anyway, thanks for reading. There are comments that Miss Samantha got a double dose of skunk perfume for her attitude. Gotta respect her commitment to finishing the walk, though. Talk about stinking determination. Some viewers asked questions. If you were this person, would you have warned Miss Samantha one more time or let her walk into the skunk trap like they did? Share your take below. From a skunk-scented revenge to a retail rampage. In 1989, I worked for the planogram team for my local Target. We set up / took apart store displays and fixtures, which included product label updates and building out new display models. In February, we were assigned 6 weeks of overnight shifts to completely gut and then replace the home goods and furniture, hardware / automotive and toys departments. Management promised us extra help and plenty of time to take down the huge furniture flats and rebuilds in the home goods, which had heavy display models and were elevated onto huge precast shelves. Anyone who's ever worked retail knows what I'm referring to. Management did nothing. And our new plans for the displays were to be given to us before we even started, and they were continually late. Toys and hardware / automotive were fine. We finished those with no extra help within a day of when they were to be finished. The home good and furniture plans were given to my boss at the start of our shift, along with the deadline of having everything finished in one night, which meant removing the old display models, taking them in tubs to the trash compactor, removing the shelves, along with the industrial carpet that was glued to the shelves, and clean the shelves before they were shipped off to another store, taking apart the furniture for the trash compactor so it would be easier to destroy in the compactor, building the new furniture displays and putting them up on the new furniture flats. We were promised that we'd have 4 to 6 employees help us that night, since a lot of the furniture was heavy bookshelves and desks. We got all. My supervisor, Dolores, was pissed, and rightly so. We were left with a note to get all of that work done within our allotted shift, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Conveniently, the GM and other AMs were gone for the night, and no one answered Dolores's calls. Dolores was a big woman. Former Army vet, 6 feet 2 inches tall and built like a tank. I'd never seen her so angry or even angry until that night. There were only 5 of us to do the work of 10 to 12 people. I watched Dolores climb up on one of the furniture flats, wait a moment, then while looking straight into the security camera, kicked a fake cherrywood end table off the flat, and then jumped down on the flat. It splintered into several pieces. She then proceeded to stomp those pieces into many little pieces. "OP," she said, "what did it say to do with the old display models?" I checked the list. "It says to disassemble them and then take the pieces to the compactor so they'll be easier to compact." Dolores gestured to the flats. "Team, that's what we're going to do." So, I climbed up and knocked down a 3-shelf particle board bookcase with a fake walnut finish. It fell flat. I then jumped on the back of the case and broke through the particle board back. I then took my hammer and started smashing the sides of the bookcase. It came apart instantly. For the next 45 minutes, we climbed up on each one of those furniture flats, knocked down the displays and destroyed them all. We had so much fun. It was extremely therapeutic. We then swept up the remains and put them into 2 tubs and left them by the compactor. We did manage to get the old displays down and put the new ones up. We were unable to remove the carpet from the old shelves as it was glued down, and we didn't have any solvents to use. We also left the new displays in their boxes as there was no time to put them together. Dolores waited until the morning AM showed up, and then tore the guy a new one before leaving. When I came to work that night, the new furniture was already put together and up on the new displays. We were also given an apology by the regional manager, who Dolores called that day to let him know we'd been screwed over with an impossible deadline, and given a free pizza dinner for our trouble. I left Target 2 months later and moved out of state. Dolores retired 6 months later. There are comments that, Dolores and the team turning Target into a furniture smashing party? Iconic. Bet the security camera footage is still a legend in the break room. Some viewers asked questions. If you were on Dolores' team, would you have joined the furniture smashing spree or tried to stick to the impossible deadline? Let me know in the comments. From retail rebellion to a social showdown. So I am telling this story because the friend involved recently died from a short but valiant battle with cancer. She went from the doctor saying, "Well, we need to do a biopsy, it's probably nothing," to a call from her 5 weeks later saying she was going into hospice care, with just a few days to live. But saying goodbye brought up some tough memories and a funny one. I decided to go to a meetup a different friend from work suggested I might enjoy. A tiki club that met weekly but not only at tiki bars. 50s-style diners were also part of the club. It was at a local dessert place with a 50s diner flair that also serves some good coffee. I think this is my 2nd or 3rd meetup with them and it is a good group. Several of them rode motorcycles or even Vespa scooters as I did an old 70s Honda CB554-4. I sit down with my coffee and am talking with one of the guys who just bought a new Triumph Bonneville when someone comes up to the table. She went off to college, me to the Navy, and we lost track of each other. This being the days before the internet. I had been married for 15 years at this point and had a child. While she was single, it was a strange but platonic friendship that revolved around the meetup club. The dessert diner was a favorite, and every time I would get a coffee she would steal it and drink from the other side. It was a thing we had. It was a good way to get out of the house as I worked from home, and that could be isolating. But it was not without its problems. One of the older women in the club was a real attention whore and instigator. She really did not like Wayward, who wasn't out there causing her problems, but Wayward did a lot for the club and it showed up, Ms. Attention Slut. My wife. Well, she had no interest in the club, and she saw it as a chance for her to hang out with her friends down the street or have them over. She thought the thing with Wayward was cute and charming. My wife has 0 jealous bones in her body and cannot stand attention whores. She laughed when I told her the latest Ms. Attention Slut's antics. Oh, and a true redhead's temper. So several years of friendship in the club go by, with various amounts of harassment and whispered rumors by Ms. Attention Slut. It was the yearly club planning dinner, and Ms. Attention Slut had had more than her share of box wine. Wayward, who got tied up with a patient and was late, came in after the dinner and gave me a hug. Ms. Attention Slut said in a loud stage whisper to everyone, "Gee, I wonder what Ms. Raccoon would think of that. Maybe someone should tell her." I saw red. I pulled out my phone and speed dialed my wife. "Oh, you have something to say to my wife, do you, Ms. Attention Slut? Let me help you out here." I put it on speakerphone. "Hey honey, someone here has something to say to you about me and Wayward." Hand me over to her, dear. And when Ms. Attention Slut tried to say something, Ms. Raccoon let her temper fly. She read her the riot act, mocked her, ripped her up one side and down the other, and told her to keep her nose out of other people's business if she liked the way it looked. She would never hurt anybody, but it sounded like she would, and that was what counted. The club heard it. It grew silent. Ms. Attention Slut was imitating a fish out of water. She was turning even pinker than the wine could account for, and Ms. Attention Slut was imitating a fish out of water, making ah sounds. Then my wife started to laugh, which her laugh is very infectious. Other people started to laugh. Ms. Attention Slut started to really turn pink, then ran out of the room. A 60-year-old woman crying like a toddler. Well, in the spirit of the Tiki Club, here is to you, wayward, fair winds and following seas. Down's the last of his Mai Tai. There are comments that Ms. Attention Slut got served a full course of humiliation with a side of redhead temper. That speakerphone clapback deserves a Tiki Club trophy. Some viewers asked questions. If you were at this Tiki Club dinner, would you have called your wife like this guy did, or handled Ms. Attention Slut another way? Share your thoughts below. From a Tiki Club takedown to a grocery store giggle. This is probably super mild compared to most things posted here, but I just remembered it and it made me laugh, so here goes. When I was in high school, far longer ago than I care to admit, I was a bagger at a local grocery store. One of the policies of the store was that we had to offer to help everyone take their groceries out to their car. Anytime someone elderly or someone with a lot of bags came through the line, I would offer to help, and many of them accepted. There were a lot of parents with kids that turned down the help because they would make their clones help instead. I quickly learned who was going to accept the offer and who wasn't, so if they fit the criteria for not being interested in help, I didn't bother to ask. They always refused, so why keep asking? Well, one day my manager is hovering while I'm bagging, and a lady bought a carton of eggs and a loaf of bread. I smiled and wished her a nice day, handing her the single featherweight bag, and she smiled and returned the greeting and was on her way. My manager noticed I didn't offer to help her out and scolded me, and I just pointed out she had one partially filled bag that was super light, so probably wouldn't have needed help. He emphasized it was the store policy and I need to offer help to everyone. The next guy in the line was definitely a gym rat. A foot taller than me, biceps as big as my head, a tight tank top and basketball shorts. It's been so long I can't remember what he bought, but it occupied a single bag and wasn't heavy. I double bagged it, still in front of my hovering manager, and said, "Sir, would you like me to help you carry all of your groceries out to your car?" He laughed, saw I wasn't also laughing, and his expression changed to utter confusion. He looked at me like I just asked him what shampoo he used on his armpit hair. It was 95% confusion, 5% suspicion at what game I could be playing with him. He looked at my manager with a new look that said, "Is this kid okay?" Then turned back to me, still chuckling a little bit in confusion, and said, "Nah man, I think I got it." He took his bag of protein powder and eggs or whatever it actually was and walked out, shaking his head. I looked at my manager and shrugged. His expression read as, "Yeah, alright, fine." And he went back to the office. He never hovered or enforced the policy again after that. Like I said, super mild and short compared to a lot of posts on here, but it was my first case of malicious compliance, so hopefully you guys got a laugh out of it as well. Since a lot of people asked, it wasn't Publix or Safeway. It was a very small local chain of grocery stores, and the one I worked at closed a decade ago. There are comments that, offering to carry a gym bro's single bag? That's peak petty. Bet he's still wondering if the bagger was trolling him or just really dedicated to store policy. Some viewers asked questions. If you were this bagger, would you have pulled this move on the gym rat to make a point, or just followed the manager's rule quietly? Let me know in the comments. From a grocery store jab to a pharmacy fiasco. In the early years of being a pharmacist, jobs in my city were hard to come by. I managed to get full-time hours by working for a couple of pharmacist friends at both of their stores. They would work out my schedule together and put an X on my schedule on the days I was at the opposing store. One store was downtown and one was in the suburb I lived in. At the suburb pharmacy I had a coworker D, who could just not wrap her brain around the fact that if there was an X by my name I was in fact working. Just at the other store. Multiple times I would have call after call on my cell phone and hang-ups on my answering machine at home because she wanted me to cover her shift at the suburb store when I was already working downtown. Worst thing was my cell phone charged me for every single call, so after the second time of her pulling this I would get downtown and immediately pull the battery off my phone. This made her angry at me for ignoring her, and we had a tepid relationship after that. Time went on and the suburb store started expanding their nursing home operation, so I was able to work there full-time instead. I still had a great relationship with the downtown store and they had me keep the keys in case of emergencies. They would occasionally come up and the X would be on the schedule by my name. Sadly, D became the assistant manager and now thought she was the boss of me. Now downtown pharmacist's daughter was getting married and suburb pharmacist was invited to all the festivities. I got scheduled to work the Thursday before at the downtown store. The X went by my name on the suburb schedule. I was also going to the wedding. I was good friends with the daughter but missing the Mindy party on the Thursday. I was working for her mum. I was on the phone with her on my break one time and she was saying how sorry she was I was missing it and I said, "Don't worry, I'll just doodle brown Sharpie all over my hands and pretend I was there when we aren't busy." Now at that exact week we were getting new pharmacy software downloaded. Nursing homes are run on a batch system where all the labels are run about 5 days before and then all the bubble packs are made up during that time and then the actual billing is done on the Thursday for the meds to be delivered Friday. Dee decided that she did not want the batch to be done and just wanted everything to be processed and made up on the Thursday for just this first week. My technician was freaking out so I just told her to make up the usual drug cards, Lipitor, Aspirin 81, multivitamin, Altace etc., without any patient data just to help speed things along. Dee overheard and told the tech that she wasn't allowed to do that and this younger generation is just scared of hard work. I panicked a bit because I was the only one of my age, Gen X, as all my coworkers were boomer aged or older. I went and checked the schedule. Yep, there's an X by my name. I won't be there for the SH asterisk though, but somehow Dee thinks I am? Why should I tell her any different? Thursday rolls around and at 12:30 my cell phone starts blowing up. It's in my purse in the safe because I don't get a lunch break, only pharmacist, and everyone can hear it. Out comes the battery. I get home after work and they're screaming and swearing on my answering machine. A locum pharmacist worked the morning shift and wasn't instructed to do anything so everything was left for Dee when she arrived at 12:30. She had to work late to finish over 500 prescription drug cards. I come in the next day and she's still furious. "You said you were working. I heard you talking about the effing Mendy thing." I told her I was working, just not at that store as evidenced by the X by my name. I learned then that she could eavesdrop on the break room from one place in the pharmacy when she herself was the only pharmacist working at the time. All my breaks were taken in my car after this. Coworker tried to make my day absolutely hell by trying to make me do 5 days of work in one day. A day that I wasn't working so she had to do it. There are comments that Dee thought she could boss around a pharmacist and got buried in 500 drug cards. Eavesdropping backfired big time. Bet she's still fuming over that X. Some viewers asked questions. If you were this pharmacist, would you have corrected Dee's misunderstanding about your schedule, or let her crash and burn like they did? Share your thoughts below. From a pharmacy fail to a plumbing catastrophe. In 2006, I worked as a maintenance technician in a small office building. My job was to make sure everything works properly: air conditioning, plumbing, electricity, all that stuff. Then we got a new boss from some big corporate office, and he was obsessed with cutting costs. First week he tells us all in a very serious voice, "From now on, absolutely no overtime. No matter what. No exceptions." We all kind of looked at each other like, is he serious? So, Friday afternoon around 4:30 p.m., I get an alert from the boiler room. Pressures in one of the water pipes is very high. I check it and pipe is vibrating like crazy. I know if we don't release the pressure or fix it, it's going to explode. I go to the boss and tell him, "This pipe is dangerous. I need maybe 1 to 2 hours overtime to fix it tonight." He looks at the clock and says, "It's past 5 soon. No overtime. We'll handle it Monday." "Okay, boss. No problem." So I go home. Saturday morning I get a call from the security guy who works weekends. He's freaking out. Water is pouring out of the boiler room. It's flooded the hallway. What do I do? I laugh. I say, "Too late. Nothing we can do now, perhaps swim?" On Monday the boss walks in and smells wet carpet and disaster. Half the ground floor is underwater. Documents ruined. IT equipment drowned. Rest in peace. He comes to me angry. "Why didn't you stop this?" I just say, "You told me no overtime." Pipe didn't want to wait till Monday. Cleanup cost thousands. And guess what? From that day boss never said no to overtime again. In fact, from then on when we reported just an inkling of a suspicion that something might be wrong, he simply said, "Do what you have to do. Just don't tell me the hours." Sometimes pipe is the best teacher. There are comments that this boss thought he could save a buck by banning overtime, but ended up swimming in regret. That pipe said, "Hold my water," and taught him a soggy lesson. Some viewers asked questions. If you were this technician, would you have snuck in to fix the pipe anyway, or followed the no overtime rule like they did? Let me know in the comments. These 8 stories prove that malicious compliance can turn betrayal into sweet, sweet redemption. Have you ever followed a bad rule to teach someone a lesson? Drop your stories in the comments. I'd love to read them. If you enjoyed this chaos, hit that like button, subscribe to Blow Up, and ring the bell for more Reddit drama. Thanks for watching. See you next time.